Come on down to the Law Student Lounge with your host, attorney Ryan McKeen, where law students like you tell their stories. So pull up a chair and join us in the lounge.
Hi, it's attorney Ryan McKeen here. Today I'm with Alejandro Cuenca. Hi, Alejandro. Welcome to the Law Student Lounge.
Hey, thank you, Ryan. I'm happy to be here.
Well, I am so happy to have you, Alejandro. Alejandro, can you tell me a little bit about yourself? Tell me a little bit about your background. I know you have a real sort of non-traditional background on your way to law school, and I know our listeners are going to find it pretty interesting.
Yeah, well, I am right now at 3L, Rising 3L at University of Connecticut School of Law here in Hartford. And, well, my story begins kind of like a while back, about a decade ago when I was going to law school in Ecuador. I've been trying to be a lawyer for that long. I was working in a law firm and everything there. I was starting my 1L there. It's an undergrad over there, but I did that, and then I couldn't. There was a recession at home. I couldn't get all the money that I needed to finish school. So I had the opportunity to come to the U.S. Luckily, I have already been to the U.S. previously, and I lived here for 4 years when I was a younger kid. And my mom was getting medical treatment, and then I moved back for what it was middle school and high school over there. So I bring that up because when I came back, I already had some English under my belt, so it was a lot easier for me to catch up. But only with a high school diploma, it was really hard for me to get a job, to figure out how everything works here. Education is free in Ecuador, and then I found out here that it's not free here. So I was doing whatever it is that I could just to make ends meet in the beginning. So after that, I through a lot of advice and just mentoring with some other folks, I got into the military because I just needed pretty much a way to live. I was not focused at that point, to be completely honest. I was not even thinking about law school anymore. I was just thinking about what do I need to survive here in the States. And then through the military, I went into the Air Force 2017 with a high school diploma. But at that point in time, after basic training, when I got to my first base, I was already starting to carve out a plan of, hey, I met kind of like these two steps of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, kind of already met, and then I can look forward, I can look beyond. And then that's when law school came back into my achievable goals. And I went to my education counselor and I was like, what do I need to do to get a bachelor's, because I want to be a lawyer. Obviously I did the research on what it meant to be a lawyer here in the US, what you need to do, taking the LSAT, having a bachelor's and all that. So, fortunately enough, the stars aligned for me. And I was able to get out of the Air Force after serving 4.5 years. And I did so with a bachelor's, and I was out of the military and into law school directly.
Awesome. And how has your, let's take it apart. That's a great story. How has your, being raised in another country, how has that, shaped your experience in law school? I mean, I can imagine, I've not been to Ecuador, but a significant contrast. How can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So I think it's an advantage, and you can see kind of like a glass half full or half empty, it depends on you. I want to see it half full in the sense that I think it's an advantage because I was able to get certain experience and certain knowledge of maybe how the world works outside of the U.S. Maybe that gave me different ideas on how to approach different issues that can arise and how to approach problems and maybe some issue spotting, when it comes to law school exams. So it's just, I think it gives me a different perspective on life and what I expect from it. So I think that is the most important aspect, just being able, not being raised the same way as everybody else, and having that different knowledge from even law school in Ecuador. How the law differs in other parts of the world, and how I can apply this or implement it on my day-to-day here in law school here in the U.S.
So what motivated you to want to go into law in the first place? You had mentioned that you wanted to do it when you were in Ecuador. What inspired you about the law?
So to be completely honest, I wanted to go into med school when I was in high school, and then that was like, oh, I want to do this. But then I had an uncle of mine who, he unfortunately passed away many years ago, but I had to see him going through his chemo and surgeries because he had stomach cancer. And, I think that affected me in a different way, where I kind of like stepped back from that dream of, or whatever, of becoming a, doctor. And then people have always told me that I would be an amazing lawyer. I don't know, for whatever reason, personality tests, that every single personality test that I've ever taken have been, lawyer, sales or lawyer. That's what it comes up, But then after that, I was able to get in a law firm in Ecuador as a messenger. I was just doing, little tasks within the firm, and that little got me introduced into the legal world, and I liked it, and it was pretty interesting. And that way I also found a really good mentor, and that person gave me a bunch of knowledge and a little bit of my initial nurture into the law, and how I can also change and affect people's lives and improve people's lives through the law. And as I got older and I was gaining more experience, I understood how important the law works within our world. Legislation, everything gets done, and most of people that get to affect millions and millions of lives is done through Congress, through our legislative process. And most people in doing that are lawyers. So I found a way that I could help people, because that was initially my passion that I realized going into the medical field. It was trying to help people. And through the law, I found a way that I could also potentially affect people's lives and change them for the better. So that's how I got introduced into the law, and how I came to decide that a lawyer was what I wanted to be.
So a lot of law school, a lot of, people talk about, people may be thinking about going to law school. In law school, the first year is like a big thing with law school. Can you tell me about your first year, sort of your first experience with law school, some thoughts on it? Because I'd love to hear about that.
Sure. So my 1L was very tricky because I was an evening division. So I was an evening student. I was in the evening division program, and at this time I was working during the day and going to school at night. And because I've had that kind of like workflow when I was in the military, going to work during the day and doing school at night, I thought, I was like, this is just gonna be just like that. And then here comes my 1L with all this new information. It was just very shocking. It was just trying to drink out of a fire hydrant. It was just a lot of information for me to grasp. So it was very challenging for everybody, but I think for me especially, because I have never worked in nothing legally related here in the U.S. So a lot of it was new for me. And when I was doing my bachelor's, I decided to do something that was legally related, because I understood that I needed to know how the system works in the U.S., how courts worked in the U.S., what's the difference between state and federal, and Supreme Court affects everything, whether state or federal. So I had to learn all that from scratch, and I didn't have that upbringing. So there has been many times where people talk about, just regular, I don't know, like the FDR, the New Deal, right? And everybody was talking about it, and I was like, I don't know what that is. So I had to learn all that. So I quickly understood my weaknesses in my 1L, and for my second semester, I was able to start improving upon what I've learned from my 1L year, because honestly, there's a lot of new information that you gain. And there's also, even for that I talked to other professors of mine, they were telling me it's almost like learning a new language when you're learning the lingo of lawyers, So I don't know if that was your case, but for me, all that was just more work that I needed to do in the background to, be able to catch up and be at par with my classmates. But everything is an opportunity, so there's an opportunity to grow, to learn, and maybe have ideas and just historical facts fresher in my mind than others.
Yeah, I mean, you hit it on the head when you said a different language. And I think for anybody out there who's thinking about going to law school, listening to this, law is a different language. It is really learning a language that is really at the core what law school is, and to some degree what the practice of law itself is. So I think you hit that right on. So if you could, you could go back, you're done with your 2L year. If you could go back to, 2 years ago as you're heading into law school that summer and tell yourself anything, what would you tell yourself?
Well, definitely tell myself to focus a lot on my mental health. I think that is because of everything how I grew up with. I think I was always very hard on myself, because it's important to recognize that once you get into a law field, and depending on the school, but majority of law schools are very competitive. So it was very usual for me to always be the best of the best or one of the best. Whether it was in the military, whether it was in my academic background, I've always achieved and excelled beyond standards. So when I got into law school, all of a sudden, you're with all your peers are also the best of the best. So everybody in your classroom most likely will be handpicked by a group of people because you've excelled in your background, in your previous academic and probably work, if you have some work experience, and that you're getting chosen, and now you're made to compete with yourself. So that was very hard on me, in the sense of I thought, and I had to go get counseling for and somebody told me this sounds like imposter syndrome. So being able to recognize, and like I said, being able to recognize and kind of understand where your deficiencies are and where you can improve early on, and get to work as fast as you can towards that. I think it's key, keeping in mind that you're there because you deserve to be there.
That's you hit on so much there, and we could spend hours just upon that, what you just told me. And I think perhaps maybe we should do multiple episodes, because I think it's so important. What you said there, which is imposter syndrome, and I can tell you, having talked to thousands and thousands of lawyers from all over the country, every kind of practice one can imagine, every kind of school one can imagine. I think everybody has felt that way. Everybody has felt like an imposter, and no matter how successful that they are, or what they've achieved, or where they went to school, or any of it. And so I think a lot about, I'm like, well, why do people, feel that way? And I think, my thoughts on it are that what law school teaches is scarcity, that there's only so much success. There are only, so many people who can get A's in a class. There are only so many people who are going to get on the journal or the law review or the moot court team or whatever it is. And, I think it's really hard when you're going through it to understand that like success is limitless. And success as defined by law schools, law professors tend to be a very incredibly small section of like the legal sector, right? You have people who did really well in law schools. They clerked for some judge, maybe they worked at some big firm, and then they were in academia a year or two later. Like it's not representative of what most lawyers do. And success tends to be defined by their career path in a way. Top of the class, prestigious, appellate clerkship, big firm into academia. I mean, do you feel that way? Do you see that at all?
So yeah, I was just trying to like get everything, because I think I definitely connect with what you just said. It's I do think success right now it's valued in the words that you just put it. It's we always look at somebody else, and everybody defines success different. But I think it's important that right now we understand and we internalize what we want our success to be. So like you just said, there are many different paths to success. There's not one way to be successful. You also got to understand that if it is that clerkship that you want, if you want that clerkship, if you want to go into this big law, you will have to do or complete some tasks and check the boxes what those kind of roles require. But not everybody is designed or wants that same clerkship, and law schools do put a lot of pressure on you to fight and to compete. To like, this is a race, and I don't believe this to be a race. I believe this to be a journey. And the better I've been at law school, it's because I've been able to understand that there is a competition with my classmates, but if you look at the end goal of everybody, we're all different. We all have different paths. We all want different things after law school. And at that point, you start realizing that my classmates are not my enemies. They're just a friendly competitor, in the sense that you will travel this long path, this long journey with them, and nobody will really benefit of making or pushing somebody down or whatnot, because everybody will be successful in their own way at their own time. And many professors have told us, right now, unfortunately, and it's a big point, grades in law school. Many professors have told us, I've seen many successful people who have not had the greatest grades, because if you look at it, grades or law school only measures a small dimension of what it takes to be a lawyer, because it takes a lot of charisma, it takes a lot of empathy, it takes a lot of critical thinking, and when you're working with other people, how to collab, how to be a good teammate. So if somebody's in that mentality of I just want to succeed no matter what, and no matter who I have to put down, I think that type of mentality will hurt you in the long run, because once you get out of law school, once you step out of that competitive zone, you step into a team. You step into a group of people that want to reach the same goal as you. And if you kept developing that sort of mentality of this is a race and not a journey, I think in the long run that's gonna definitely affect your chances of succeeding in the real world.
Yeah, I think that's really critically important. I mean, grades are grades. Grades are snapshots, and anybody going to law school, by all measures, like anything you do in life, apply yourself as best you can. Squeeze every bit of juice out of that orange that you possibly can in law school and in life. But I mean, understand that, like, yes, and nobody is going to grade you professionally. Like, you do not turn in a paper and get an A. Your abilities to, persevere, your abilities to connect, your ability to innovate and to maybe see problems differently or find solutions that maybe others don't, and communicate those in a way. And also, part of what being a lawyer is creating buy-in for those ideas. Because if you're at a firm, you've got to convince maybe the partner to do something. If you are a partner, maybe you've got to convince the client to do something. And maybe you've got to convince a judge to do something. And maybe you've got to convince, the team of lawyers that you do to do things. So your ability to clarify ideas, to create buy-in, to set the vision, all of that really matters, much more than, say, a grade. And I have to say, like, I don't think when you get out of law school, I don't think anybody is ever going to ask you about your grades. And for better or worse, every single day in this profession or in life is like, what have you done for me today? You're as good as the argument you're making this afternoon. You're as good as the case you're trying next week. It's not what you did a year ago, 2 years ago, or certainly not what you did in law school. So your advice and look, I have to say, this is like, the world of what you can do as a lawyer is so expansive, and there is never ending opportunity out there for those who are willing to look and to take it. And not all of that looks like a job at a law firm. Not all of it looks like a job working for the government, or working for an insurance company. And maybe it does for you. Maybe that's what it is that you want. Certainly, I've got friends and colleagues who love those places and are successful. But I think it's really, really critical that you know yourself, you know what makes you happy, and sort of go after it. And go after it as hard as it is that you can, and not get, don't dream the dreams of others. Just because that is what and don't get too discouraged as to any one grade. I mean, I remember when I was in law school, everything felt like life or death. But in part, I didn't have a huge safety net. I went to, a tier 4 law school. I was the first in my family to graduate from a 4-year college, get a law school degree. I wasn't from a family of lawyers. Everything felt like life or death. And so when you feel that way, that's where the psychological, emotional burden comes in, because you're like, man, I think I had many fears, like I would end up like homeless or something, because I maybe didn't make a journal or whatever it was. It all felt so acute. But looking back, I think it's not. Expansive opportunity for those who are willing to apply yourself, an expansive opportunity for better or worse. What are you able to do for me now?
Yeah, I think you hit the right points when you said, there's not everybody, don't live nobody's dreams, live your own dream. Be there do what you want to do at the end of the day. And it's important that you have a goal. You know what you want. It can change. And law school is changed. For me, it's changed in the most bizarre ways. I was trying to be a criminal lawyer, and then I took my criminal law class, and it was not what I expected. I did not want to do anything with property. It was not my thing. Just finished my class on property, one of the best professors I've ever had in my life, and it changed how I viewed that part of the law. So when I came into law school, they were saying, you're gonna change with time. Your goals might get adjusted and moved. And I would say that my end goal of being a litigator has not moved, but maybe in what area of the law I do such litigation definitely has. So absolutely.
One of the words you used is journey, and I think that that's true for every lawyer. I mean, I spoke with a lawyer yesterday. It's at the Connecticut Bar Association annual meeting, and I said, "Well, yeah, tell me about your career." And he was older, and he said, "Look, I started off. I was working for engineering at Hamilton Sunstrand. We were building stuff to go to the moon. I went to law school at night. Then I worked for their legal department, and then I worked for some big law firm, and then I worked for an insurance company, and then I went out on my own. And I did criminal defense. And then I said, no, I don't want to do that. I work back. It was just, then I did patent law. I mean, it was just like all over the place. And I think that, some of the happiest lawyers that I know, they're always open to opportunity, and they do always see it as a journey, because, where it's never, I mean, for most people, and there are people out there who, they do the same thing from the day they graduate law school to the day they retire. But I think for a lot of lawyers, they do things, they get good at them, we'll say, and then they find other things that are of interest to them. And I think that part of it is that some really great lawyers, like, they are people who are never satisfied. So they get a bunch of knowledge about something and they're like, okay, I've learned pretty much all I can know about this, and why don't I learn something else, or why don't I do something else? Or maybe they've litigated for a long time and they decide, maybe I want to be a mediator. And so I think, that if you're going into this field, it's one of the wonderful things about it. And it's one of maybe the challenging things is there's always room for that self-reflection. There's always room for, am I doing what I want to be doing? And that can change from year to year, day to day. But I think that there's a world of opportunity, just from a mindset perspective, as you're approaching your career. The journey's not linear. Like, it's not like the military where you can progress up through ranks. The journey is what you make it.
Yeah, that's true. I think there are definitely a vast amount of opportunity out there for people to do whatever it is that they want to do. And it's important that the journey that you decide to embark on takes you, and it's important that you're happy with it, that you're motivated every day, day in and day out, to keep doing what it is that you're doing. Because the moment you lose that passion, you lose that motivation. We are in a field where our decisions and our work ethic and our work product affect other people's lives. So the moment that you lose your motivation towards your career, towards whatever it is that you're doing in your law practice, most likely have a direct impact on somebody's lives. So do not do them a dishonor by, just staying with it, just sticking it because it pays the bills. Find something that you truly love. Find something that motivates you to get up every day and be happy to that it is that you're doing whatever it is that you're doing, because you will have throughout this, like we've said, throughout this journey, you will touch so many lives, and your work product will be a lot better if you're truly doing what you love, and you'll be able to connect, meet new people, and open new doors and open new opportunities. And maybe when you're tired of doing one thing, like the lawyer that you just mentioned, you move on to your next step and you move on to the next chapter in your life, and you have that opportunity because you were so good at what you did that you networked and met and were able to touch in so many different fields that you were able to find something else that kept that motivation up and kept your commitment to serving others, because ultimately I think that's what the law is.
And I think that's important, because I think you have to in order to do to be great at something, you have to love it. And you have to love at the end of the day what you're doing. You have to understand why you're motivated to do this thing over something else. Like understanding yourself, like what drives and motivates you, I think is critical. Hard to learn in law school. But I think as you go through your career, it's incredibly important, Alejandro, just to really love it every single day. And sometimes, I'm friends with an entrepreneurial group of lawyers from all over the country, and sometimes they think, Ryan, why don't you launch an immigration law firm, right? You can make lots of money doing immigration law, and you could be good at this, and you could build the systems, and you could do all these different things, and you're smart at business, so you could hire people. I'm like, because I'm not passionate about it. Like I have friends who, they are so passionate about immigration law, and that's awesome. But for me, it's like that's not the thing that motivates me. And I know criminal defense lawyers, same way. I don't know why. And I know people who love doing real estate closings. but don't make those decisions. Like, I wouldn't make business decisions for the money. I could tomorrow, Alejandro, launch a whole nother business doing wills and estates. I just don't want to do it. Not that I don't like to do it, not that I don't think it's valuable, but it's not something that I love, because whatever you're going to do in this business is like, you're going to be doing a lot of it. And so make sure it is that you really love it. I think, another point in this whole thing is money. And what I can tell you basically is, like, if you do something that you love, like, the money will follow. If you're committed to doing a good job at it, like, the money will follow. Like, the money takes care of itself. Like, there's no shortage of ways to make money as a lawyer or in the legal profession. Some ways are harder than others. Sometimes it's more than others. But in terms of earning a living, like, there's a lot of ways to have even a financially successful career that, don't involve you going to a big law firm. I know some small firm lawyers who make multiples of what large firm lawyers makes. I know small firm lawyers who make fractions of what large firm lawyer makes. I mean, it's just, it's all different, but I think that the possibility is there, if you're willing to expand your definition of success.
I agree, and I just wanna emphasize what you said about, do what you love and money will follow. I think many people just do it the opposite way. Look where the money is at, and then try to do that. But when I was younger, I remember my dad telling me those exact words. He was like, do what you love, and because you love what you do, you'll be the best at it. And because you're going to be the best at it, people are going to come to you, So it's as simple as that. So that is why it's important to have all these ducks in a row, Find what you like, be true and honest with yourself, what it is that you like, and be the best at it that you can be. And it will take time and effort. It will take a lot of time and a lot of effort. And, life does not come with an Amazon Prime. Okay. You just don't order something and it doesn't have a 2-day shipping. It takes, my case, over 10 years of dedication, hard work, effort, countless nights of non-sleep, and a lot of struggles out there. But at the end of the day, if you're true and honest and committed at your goal, and you're moving forward towards it, you're going to achieve it, and the rewards are going to be seen later on in life. So I think for any potential law students out there, just have faith in yourself, have faith in what it is that you want to do, and set those goals in your life and work as hard as you can to achieve them. Sometimes, like I said, they don't come easy, and sometimes you need to deviate from the path, but always, keep walking towards that goal.
I think one of the things, I went to law school straight out of college. I was like 22, 23 when I started law school. And, you don't realize how young you are. Like, you have so much time ahead of you. I think most law students are probably like in their mid-20s. You have so much time ahead of you. If you're 30 or 40, there's so much time ahead of you for things to happen. So I think that's something I think I wish I understood. I always felt like things weren't happening fast enough, or like I wasn't making them happen. But I think that, there's a massive long game to be played out there for those who are willing to think in very long terms. Like, you're just getting started. Like, and you said, well, I've always I've had, like, in this or any lawyer's career, legal day, I've been at this almost 20 years. You've got amazing days and you've got bad days. You've got whether it's practicing law, running a firm, just being a lawyer. But what I like to think is that, sometimes the bad days are just the world's way of setting you on your path. Mm-hmm. It's helping you find your journey. This didn't work out, but this did. I think if you look back on your career, you'll find that a lot of things that you felt maybe were devastating at a time were just pushing you down the right path. And I think that the thing for anybody out there listening is, it's not a mistake it's only a mistake if you don't learn from it and if you don't grow from it. And so if you adopt a mindset where it's just like, I'm going to learn, I'm going to grow, this is an experience, I think you have a really good shot at it. Now, are you you're 2L, so you're going to your 3L year? You're studying for the bar exam. Do you have any thoughts on that? I know that's a hot topic with law students.
So yeah, currently I have friends who obviously graduated this May and are right now going through their study sessions. So these people that I've talked to who are right now going through their bar prep, they said that, you know, it's different from what they've been used to in law school, because the bar tests you on different subjects, and maybe you did not take that subject, or maybe you did but you don't remember it. So very important to have your outlines and whatever it is that they taught you in your school, you know, to have it readily accessible to you, and in the way that you can understand and digest that information in a quick manner. So for me specifically, I've designed my law school path, and I guess this is one of the perks of being in the older spectrum of law students, where because I just turned 30, so, and having a bunch of experience in different fields and in life in general, and just a quick side note on that is that before coming to law school, and I was just first year in the U.S. after I had come after the recession that I talked about in Ecuador that forced me to move here. It was the fact that I didn't even think, well, I didn't even know sometimes, you know, what I was going to eat the next day, if I was going to even have a job the next day. And ultimately, I at that moment in time, I was, you know, like, why is life doing this to me? You know, what can I do? What it is that I'm paying for? And it was nothing else that I think just life pushing me towards me maybe joining the military. And if it wasn't for the military and taking those steps and those moments in life that forced me to take those steps, looking back, maybe if I had a 9-to-5, I would have never ever achieved my goal of becoming a lawyer, because I would have been in this nice, comfortable spot. So moving out of that comfort zone, making sure you're always pushing through, I think that's important. So going back to on topic of law school, I've realized that I work better if I have if I plan out what I'm going to do for my goal. And right now, goal in life or my short-term goal is, you know, graduate law school and pass the bar first try. What do I need to do that? The biggest thing is, you know, passing the bar. You're now, even if you graduate with a 4.0, top of the class in whatever law school, you don't pass the bar, you don't get to practice law. It's as simple as that. For me right now, I'm focusing a lot on making, or what I focused on was making sure I had enough time. So transitioning from the evening to the day division put a lot of extra workload, because I was taking less classes in the evening division, but also that also enabled me to take a full year. This 2L for me was extremely difficult, because I took on a lot of classes to catch up and also to prepare myself and to help myself in the future, because my 3L spring right before the bar, I'm not going to have to take as many doctrinal classes. I'm going to have a little bit more free time that will enable me to start studying for the bar beforehand, and not having to be, you know, that crash course almost in that you want to take this time for the bar, like of a 2-month pretty much, you know, study session that they want to do. I want to take a little bit more time, just because I know how I study. I learned to recognize what works best for me. So I'm in that path now, and I just have a friend who graduated, and he had a very similar path, but he had a lighter, softer 3L spring, and he was like, it was the best decision that I made. So yeah, always talking to some people in law school, especially if they're in years more advanced than you, always can also help you on maybe changing your goals and see what you can do.
Yeah, and that's excellent. I remember when I did the bar, I was nervous about that, obviously, and my goal was just I promised myself I was only ever going to take it once. I didn't want to do it any more than one time, and if I didn't pass, it was probably not my calling in life. But fortunately I passed, and I just remember I did like 50 multi-state exams every single day from the day I graduated until the day I took the bar. But the end of the summer, I had like memorized questions and answers, and but it's for those out there, it's passable, and just take those bar prep courses. They really do matter. So Alejandro, just two things. We're going to close the show with just two questions. One is, do you have any tips for somebody who is thinking about going to law school or going into their first year? Like just a quick tip. Could be something real small.
Sure. So, well, if you're going to law school, I would say the biggest tip that I would have for you is start working on all your materials as soon as you can. And that includes your personal statement, if you have any diversity background, a diversity statement beforehand, because although I know a lot of people focus a lot on the LSAT, and it is what carries more weight in an admission process, your personal statement could also be a contributing factor if you get in or not to your dream law school. And if you're a 1L, I would suggest that you pay close attention to the readings and make sure you have really good notes. A really good outline is going to be your best friend at the end of the day, because your exam is worth sometimes anywhere from 70 to 90% of your grade. So your own outline, not bought, not shared, your own outline is going to be your best friend, because it's your words and the way that you how you understand whatever it is that you're learning, and that will help you you have no idea.
Great advice. Last question, real serious. However you take your burger, veggie burger, hamburger, cheeseburger, whatever it is, what condiments are you putting on top of a burger?
So I'm gonna go ahead and give them another tip, and this is a law school answer. It depends. It depends on where I'm at. But let's say that I have all the condiments in the world, and it's my perfect burger. I'm gonna go with grilled mushrooms, grilled onions, and then pickles. I would have to say, yeah. That's usually what I ask at Five Guys. That's what I was thinking when you asked me that question. Honestly, I was thinking Five Guys. What do I put in my Five Guys burger?
Well, that's a great thing. I think maybe we should have Five Guys today. We should order some Five Guys to the office. Because I'm a big ketchup. I mean, like don't get me wrong, I like caramelized onions. I like a whole bunch of stuff, but ketchup, mayonnaise, pickles, like that's sort of like my go-to. So Alejandro, thank you so much. I really appreciate you being on the show. There's a lot of great stuff here. I mean, your story is unique, and I think you shared a lot of real wisdom for anybody out there listening today. So thank you.
I appreciate you having me. Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you for joining Ryan McKeen in the Law Student Lounge, where real law students talk about their real lives. Are you a law student with a story to tell? Learn how you can share your story with us in the episode description. And join us next time in the Law Student Lounge.